Ms. Georgina Angel Ortega, Mr. Matt Martinez,
Present.
Mr. Almer Martinez,
Present.
Mrs. Helen Strader,
Present.
Mr. Krutik Bakta.
Here.
Thank you, sir. We do have a quorum.
All right, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, approval of agenda. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Just one item, Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
Under other business, I think Mr. Marquez had mentioned that he could maybe report a little bit on Fiesta. on
Fiesta? I can do that, sir.
Not a formal one, but just to give us some information.
Sure, I can do that,
Okay.
if that's okay with the board.
Do you want to amend to include any of the other report? I know you'd sent a few emails. Did you want to talk about those at all, or did that?
I guess we could amend, I guess you'll have to refresh my memory on that one, so I apologize, but
Just on the, I think Scott, you had sent out one email on the Chamber of Commerce reporting back.
From the chamber,
oh, got you. Yeah.
a letter from the
Than
chamber.
anybody else that's reported
That's
as
just
far
their
as.
report.
Okay,
I'm fine with that, if you guys would like that, we can do a little bit of,
Not official report, because I know that each organization should be reporting back to us, but
yes.
give us an idea what's happening.
Okay.
Thank you.
second on that motion?
I'll second.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right. Moving on to approval of minutes. I think we've got two to approve. So we'll take them on one at a time. The one for August 27th. If there,
There's a lot of activity in the minutes, but I didn't find any problems with them, so I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
Are you approving both sets? Number?
we were gonna do one at a time, but it's just, so let's start with the first set and then we'll go to the second
The
set.
minutes of August 27th. Make a motion to approve minutes of August 27th.
And I second.
Would you like a roll call, sir?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Helen Strader?
I second it.
Okay, Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
Elmer? Mr. Matt Martinez?
Yes.
All right, moving on to the second one for September 17th, 2024. And if there's not any issues, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move. Motion to approve minutes of September 17th.
Second.
The roll call, sir?
One question, I think we need to add down that Helen unfortunately was not able to track the meeting. She was here, she left, we couldn't catch up with her, but she was here, so I think she needs to have an excused absence, because she was here, I talked to her prior to the meeting starting, so
I believe that's fair.
we should put that
She
down.
was here, and
Yeah.
I did see her, it was starting to rain really bad,
And
and Ms. Strader had to leave, so
Yeah.
she was here.
I didn't have to leave. I left because there was a note on the door that said it was
Going
at
over
the
there.
railroad station. When I got down to the railroad station, nobody was there.
So can we, let's see, we have a motion amending the minutes to have her,
Excuse that.
have her
Perfect.
be an excused absence?
We can do that, we can change those.
Motion to reflect that the administrator's absence is excused and to be marked as such on the minutes.
Okay,
Right, thank you. I second it.
Okay. Mr. Matt Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Almer Martinez,
Yes.
Ms. Helen Strader.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I have a comment, and I'm not too sure. I think it's sort of in line with the minutes. It's not a discussion of any sort. I didn't get a chance to listen to the last city council meeting. Unfortunately, I was not in town. But from what I can tell, the city council was very upset at our presentation in regards to city events and the way the applications were placed. And I think during the meeting, the mayor pointed it out, that at one point, we had to have more specific information. So unfortunately, at the council meeting, I think the only one present was you, Mr. Lucas, and had to take the brunt of that discussion. And I really believe that at some point, something needs to be done because, we as a board, go through these applications. We were given a very good description verbally, but it did not appear in the documents that we approved. So nonetheless, council was not comfortable and somewhat, chastised this board for being there. And then I understand there was comments from Councilor Montoya, who alluded to a fact that, in fact, I think brought up my last name, if not my first name up. And I guess wherever the word radio appears on a minute or something, I guess he thinks that it has something to do with our station. I'm very careful how I, take care of my standing in this committee and how I represent my business. So I guess I don't appreciate his comments, and I haven't had a chance to visit with him about it, but, I don't think that that's appropriate. It's obvious that he had a discussion with somebody from this board, because what it boiled down to is the guy was just talking from both sides of his mouth. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with the way this thing operates. In fact, I think he even mentioned a statement that our board was in chaos. And I've been here a little over 2 years, and I've never seen the board being in chaos, number one. Number two, I guess if he has a issue, he should go through, the director and try to get that resolved. But I do want to point out that, as a member of this community and a member of this board, I take my position very seriously. So if people have misinformation, that's not my issue. I try to look at each document that comes before this board in the proper way and try to vote accordingly. And if it has anything to do with my business, I always abstain from that position. And hopefully that's a statement that lasts going forward if it's not understood any other way. But I don't understand how this board could be in chaos, I know that there are some issues that come up that some people may not like how lodger's tax can be utilized. I'm actually grateful that Mr. Al Martinez is here, who for years took care of this department and understood how all that worked. I couldn't remember how those things worked, but he's refreshed my memory, and I'm very comfortable with the explanations that he's given us. So I was just very disappointed with the way the Lodgers Tax Board was treated at a council meeting. And because more than anything, the board didn't take an action to get there. It was the way that the documents were presented to us, and we were voting on them. And I think some of them are coming back for our consideration, as far as I know. So I'm just very disappointed, and I thought I needed to make that statement, because I just don't think we're a public board that represents the community, and for us to be being chastised in that manner is not proper. If there's something we did wrong, I think there's a process, and we should go back to the director, be made aware of it at the board at the time, and then we go from there.
All right. Yeah, let's see if there's, anything else. We could try to address it in new business for it, but I just want to make sure we're staying on task to the agenda. So we're going to number one on new business for recommendation on the Sunny 505 contract.
Yes, sir. Mr. Board and Chair, we have Ms. Dita Austin here with us. She does represent Sunny 505. The last meeting, I did have to leave a little bit early, so I don't have all the information that was requested myself, but it was presented to Dita through Scott, and they did come up with some answers for you guys. So I just want to make sure that we open up the discussion and that we get a recommendation. so we could go ahead and move forward with this contract to council either way. And with that, I'll open it up to any type of discussion the board may want to have.
Okay, was she gonna we'll ask questions afterwards?
Whatever you like, sir, however you would like to handle it.
Okay, welcome. Cheers.
Can
Hi.
you hear us, Dita?
Yeah, I can absolutely hear you. How are you?
Now we can hear you. Okay, so it looks like you got some information with us. I'll let you start.
Okay, so what I understand for today is we're going through, and our recommendation from my last meeting that I attended is we were going to do an addendum based on some of the recommendations from the board here in front of me. So I'm going to attempt to share. I also emailed my presentation to Scott and Lucas, because sometimes Google Meets is just funny. So bear with me while we try. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So based on our last discussion, we had talked about making some changes. I think everybody had agreed that we don't want to revisit refreshing the Las Vegas City brand. So I think we all agreed that let's just strike that. Why don't we just go ahead and let's use what we've got. There we go. And what we'll do is we've got it's essentially a JPEG of the existing City of Las Vegas logo. So what we need to do is we're just going to redraw that existing logo so that we can have a high-res file for use. What we've already run into this year with printing Balloon Fiesta materials is our printers had trouble with that file. So we need to recreate the logo as it is in something that can be used across multiple formats. So we'll hand redraw it, create high resolution files, and then do versions in color, black and white, and grayscale, and in multiple orientations for use across different types of print media. We're also going to develop just for internal use, so for use at your chamber and at the community relations, just something that we create for you guys, is we'll create a color palette that's already based on the existing ribbon in your logo, so that you guys will have the color codes and everything can start to stay congruent. It's kind of, think of it as like a little branding guide that you can use to make sure that anything the city creates all starts to look the same. We were also requested to redesign the historic tour rack card. So a full redesign for print, web, and downloadable PDF with QR. That will also go on your website. We also have to create high resolution files for that, and then also print copies for distribution in City of Las Vegas. We will continue your website updates and maintenance. We do that on almost, I'm going to say 2 to 3 times a week. We're doing web updates, so we'll just continue doing that. We'll also do some photo and video updates for web content refresh and maintenance for mobile optimization and ADA compliance. And those things are ongoing. So those are weekly tasks that we are still currently doing. Social media management. So you have 2 different social media accounts right now. One is a local social media account that is a Facebook page that we have actively been trying to track down who manages it, your content. What we would like to do this year, in my conversations with Scott and Lucas, especially as you're becoming more active, is take over that monthly posting and calendar management for your Facebook and Instagram pages, in working with Charles and Scott and Lucas to make sure that what's happening on the internal City of Las Vegas page is reflecting what is happening in the community. So that's things like the farmers market, any of the local car shows, all the events that you're trying to pull in an audience that's within like a 200 to 250 mile range. Social media management of your tourism accounts. Those are separate accounts. So those are social media accounts, Facebook and Instagram, that may expand out to TikTok later in the year, where we actually engage influencers, and we pull in cross-account management, cross-account content nationally. So we reach out to people that, let's say they live in Chicago or they live in New Hampshire and they visited Las Vegas and they want to share content. So we manage, and we are currently managing the organic engagement there. But those are two very different accounts. So those are two different teams. All right, next on the list, a photo and video shoot. We didn't get to do that last year. That was put on hold, and you weren't charged for it. But we do need to do a new video and photo shoot for some 15 and 30-second commercials for tourism and web assets. That includes still shoots and also shooting for social media assets. So those are 3 different photographers. The next slide item will be creative production. That's video editing and commercial production for television, streaming television, and social media videos. It also includes your graphic design for print ads. We're also your New Mexico True account management, so that will continue through FY25. And then media placement, we've placed in a large line item for television placement, and it's strictly placement, broadcast and streaming, and print media. Okay, this is the breakdown. So,
Real quick, Dita, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Chair and Board, I want to recognize that Ms. Georgina Ortega Angel has entered, and she will be present for the meeting as well. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. I'm sorry, Dita, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Okay, so this is the breakdown. And again, Scott and Lucas have this presentation in their email. So if you would like to have that, they can always send that your way, and you can take a look at this more closely. So the redraw of the existing city logo, create the logo-based brand palette, the colors for black and white grayscale, high resolution, and multiple orientation guides, and providing the branding guide and design files. That's $5,000. The design for the new historic rat card with the digital copies and the actual print copies is $15,000. The website refresh and maintenance, the continued update of the tourism website, including adding videography, photography, and SEO management, is $15,000. The City of Las Vegas Facebook and Instagram page management, these are your local pages, and this is for 12 months, is $24,000. The video and photo shoot to create new tourism assets, including still photos and 15 to 30-second commercials. That's a 2-day shoot. That's $30,000. It usually takes us 4 to 5 staff to come up and get that done. Social media management of the tourism social media accounts. That is the national pages, and that's $15,000. The television advertising throughout New Mexico. So this is just the buy. This is just buying commercials, is $40,000. The creative production, including the video, audio, and static images for social media and broadcast use in your print ads, that's $20,000 for the year. And then advertising in Santa Fe and Albuquerque visitors guides, the placement for those print ads is $20,000. And then management of the New Mexico True account management is $15,000. That brings your annual total to $189,000, not including New Mexico gross receipts tax.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead.
I think in the last discussion that we had, the city already has television advertising, right, Lucas?
We do have television advertisement, yes, sir.
So we would need to get it through them. We do it directly already with one of the stations, right?
Yes, we do it through KRQE.
Okay.
So I guess the question was whether we
Okay.
were duplicating efforts or not, or this would.
No, it wouldn't be duplicating. Dita has her own ideas on her own, and she presents them to us, and she hits them pretty spot on 100% of the time. That we worked with this Fiesta, she did really well with us and helping us, assisting us with that. But we did use our own monies to go ahead and put the television commercials together. Lodger's tax money, I should say.
So example for broadcast. One of the cities that I'm strictly their creative strategist. We created their campaign and we placed on Peacock and NBC. We did a large streaming buy, which is is actually less expensive than doing a traditional broadcast purchase. But the way that we place, we actually had their tourism ads running during the Olympics, prime time. And we fell well under their regular budget. So we've actually increased their Peacock budget this year, to just for better exposure.
Okay.
It's more targeted and less expensive.
Yeah, and so I mean the key points that I key on is actual ad buys. So from the actual placements, it looks like for what you're saying, the 40 and 20. So the 60 out of the 189 here is actual ad buys, correct?
It's actually a little more, because you're in your historic rack card. Printing that rack card runs between 7,000 and 8,000 for that. That comes out of this budget.
And
Santa Fe, the Santa Fe guide will run 10. We can usually, what we'll do is we negotiate between the television buy and the Albuquerque Visitors Guides to try to bundle those together to get a better rate. So most of this is really just is getting you out in front of folks.
yeah, I mean, and for any of the contracts, and we had conversations before, is that we wanted to be careful getting into situations where we're spending so much everything than the actual ad, the things that are out there. We're spending less on that and spending more on the creation of. But some of these, yes, we can create and they can continue to have production on the rack cards. As far as printing and so on, I think there was a concern. That, I mean, so yes, it has a QR code, but as far as the digital version of that, or would there be a digital version of that? That could be.
It's included. The digital version is included in there.
Okay, and so there would be like, I guess, a strategy of how to shoot those things out with
It's
format digitally.
It's the digital version we feel is the most important version, because that's the piece that's going to move around more than your print piece. So know that when we create a digital piece, it's formatted for desktop, but it's mostly mobile optimized, so that the people that are interacting with that design are using it where you want them to use it.
Okay. So only a few other things. I mean, it looks like I'm just kind of looking at the past budget here, and so it looks like the website, from what was presented, I think on our last lodgers, is for. I'm thinking this was that the website refresh and maintenance went from 10 to 15, and then I believe our social media went from 15 to.
It went up to 24. What we're finding right now,
We added the Facebook management for 24.
right, and that's based on current activity. Just since the beginning of this current cycle, Scott and my team, and Charles and my team, I'm going to say your Facebook and your Instagram activity has probably increased tenfold. There are so many more events.
Process of what I mean, because those are big, you know, at 24, 15 of what's done, and say, okay, you're looking at it 3 times a week or so on, but what's actually being done on that level as far as monitoring and so on.
So it's calendar planning, post creation, and monitoring.
Okay. So some of that includes influencing and so on, or getting it out there as
And shares and responding to posts, things like that.
Okay.
So I actually have an entire team of people that's what they do all day. Is they plan your calendar, they create your posts, they watch and see who shared a post, and they interact and make sure that it essentially looks like you have somebody sitting at a desk and watching your page.
So what metrics can we use for their production? Like how do you know if we wanted to see, hey, you guys are doing these things, what metrics do we use that there's actual some production out of there, or we're not wasting our time and effort?
Yeah.
Is there any-
So on average, a good calendar has between, I say a good week, you have 3 posts, 4 at the most, because you don't want to overload. And then you watch your engagement. So when you plan a calendar, you plan it with 3 per week, and then you watch to see in that first 2 weeks, how did engagement move on 3? Did it not move well? And then the person has to go through, watch all those things, and then if they say the following, okay, it was on day 3, engagement dropped. Then we have to move to 2, and then we change the staggering days. What days did people interact? Okay, if they only interacted on specific days, then do we need to move it to 4 based on the types of events that are happening? It's constant monitoring. It's not, social media isn't a schedule it, set it, forget it. You can't. Because if you don't watch when people are clicking or when people are sharing, and you reschedule it the same way 2 weeks out into the future, not paying attention to what events are actually happening, then you can lose followers.
So can we make ad buying decisions based off of the monitoring? I'm just kind of in the notion of getting advertising
Sure.
out there, and so
Well,
I guess influencers would be one, but how do we get ads in front of them for placement or the use of different information that we're getting from the followers?
so if you wanted to place, so Facebook ads are different than Facebook page management. So if let's say that Lucas and Scott say, you know what, we've got this event that's coming up. Let's take an example, Fall Fiestas. And they say, we want an ad, not an organic post. Then Lucas and Scott would then identify which part of the budget we are going to subtract an ad buy from. It wouldn't go from your Facebook management page, because then that means that there's hours that I have to pull from somebody managing your page.
Okay.
So let's say that, so Fall Fiestas, I think Lucas, I think we ended up spending, we spent 1,500 on those ads. Am I right? Was it 1,000 or 1,500 on those?
Yeah, about
Remember?
around 1,500.
Yeah. And so that comes out as a media buy, not as social media page management.
So what, I guess out of the budget, like here, if it's in here, what would that come out of? That's the strategy of whether it's Facebook, whether it's as in targeted ad buys, in social media, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube.
Or anything like that. It would be we would always go Facebook or Instagram, because they're less expensive and they get organic shares. And when it comes to that spend, that's where I would ask Lucas and Scott, which of these places would you like me to pull from?
Right. Like,
Most likely it would come from your television. Most likely it would come from television is where I would lean.
as in if
I was going to do that.
Advertisement.
Right. Then I would pull it from that line item, unless there was a secondary budget that I wasn't aware of that you guys had as a slush line.
Well, I mean, look,
But that wasn't discussed with me as to what your media budget looks like.
Yeah, I mean, some of the reason I brought it up now, I mean, I didn't see it, but we should, and it looks like you were doing some of it, and so if we put a line out of say, hey, because that goes a long way of saying we're doing actual ad buys here, and these are the results or so on. But for even for Balloon Fiesta now, look, anybody that, if we could say, hey, we're targeting this right now, anybody that puts in balloons, we'd like to be in front of, puts a search in for balloons, we'd like to be in front of them as Las Vegas and so on, and have that target. Okay.
Yeah, and if you'd like to, before we go and this budget is completely finalized, If Lucas and Scott would like to discuss an additional line item just for social media ad placement, we can. I don't always recommend it only because social media is so organic. You don't always need it.
Okay.
You don't always
Well,
need
we
it.
did ask for, like in the past, and if you can, I don't know if you had shot out to them, is just when we're doing this, reporting to us on what the strategy has been, and then what you're seeing, as far as, what's been monitoring and what the actions you're taking, so we can have some metric on, hey, things are going well in our social media and so on. And then you could explain to us, look, we could hit it some more with some ad buys, or no, we could just sit there and do it for free, the way we're doing it, just monitoring. So, but if we could have reports like that quarterly, I think quarterly, that we have our quarterly largest tax meetings, for all things reports is probably the best time to get it to us. So,
Sure.
so it would be part of our report section. So we hear back from you saying, look, we're spending this much
That's,
on social media. What are we getting out of it?
yeah, absolutely. In fact, our other clients that we do their social media management, that's just standard, is we do quarterly report, just so folks can kind of see, how are their pages doing.
Any questions, Rula?
Yeah, I want to go back to the television advertisement. The city just said, Lucas, you just told us that we've already produced something with lodger's tax money, correct?
Lodgers tax funded us, I believe it was some money, I don't want to say the exact amount because I don't have it in front of me, I don't want to lie. But there was given money to go ahead and do some commercials for the fiestas. And we went ahead and made our calls to each television station, see which was going to get us more bang for our buck, and we went with the KRQE.
Okay, you have here television advertisement. Since they already did one of those items that supposedly you should have been doing, correct? Am I correct?
Not for this, not for this one.
Not for this one?
Yeah, no.
But typically,
No.
that's something that they would have been producing, correct? If it was the full year,
We could have, yes. Yes,
typically,
yes.
okay.
Just to clarify, I think I'm getting that. So the video that was already done was for Fiesta specifically.
Fiesta specifically,
The whole year.
yeah.
This
Correct.
situation, this is marketing for the.
So then, will the city be doing this every year, or was this just a one-time deal?
Well, seeing the way that we got, the amount of views we got on it, I think it should be continuing for a long
Well, then
time.
that means we would take it away from these advertisement, from these guys. Because that particular fiestas you're producing, they don't have to produce it. So if they're producing 5 and the fiestas is one of them, the city's doing it. So then you're only gonna be producing 4 television advertisements for New Mexico, correct? Is that how I see it?
Should probably go to 4, yeah, and we'd be, if we could do the Fiesta, we could do it, no big deal. It ran us about 8,500.
Well, I'm just saying, because they're asking
well,
4,000 for something that supposedly
I'm sorry, but
is 5.
I
Now
wouldn't,
it's only gonna be 4.
Okay.
So I just don't want us to be paying them for 5 and they're only producing 4, correct? Is that the picture I'm seeing?
Is it?
no, I guess I don't understand where 4 and 5,
Well, I'm
what
just
that is.
saying that there's 5, I'm just putting out a number 5. You produce
Okay.
supposedly 5 television ad commercials for the city, but the city's doing one of them. So then that means you're only gonna be producing 4, correct? Is that how I'm seeing this?
Oh, ma'am, there's a little bit of.
No, that's not,
It had nothing to do with that commercial that we did. We kind of went rogue on that one.
right.
And they're still doing their commercials. That commercial was separate, because it was a fall fiesta. If anything, they would have probably been involved for the 4th of July fiesta. But since it was the fall fiesta, the city went a little bit on their own with that one. We used the money that was afforded to us by lodger's tax to go ahead and make a commercial for our fall fiestas.
So for this 25.
Right, and so,
year, calendar year that we're looking at,
for next year.
you aren't, the city is not gonna be producing anything as far as, you're not gonna come back to us and say, we wanna produce this television ad or whatever
I can't
for this
promise, I can't promise that.
I mean.
because I don't want us to be paying
For
for two different things if one is gonna do it,
Whether
you
we put
know?
on additional advertising. From what I'm hearing is that Sunny was going to do it last year, and it didn't happen for various reasons, whether it was logo or so on. Lucas for the Fiestas said, hey, let's create a video along with the thing to at least get one video done. So technically, if I'm correct, last year's video didn't happen, right? And it was approved
Correct.
budget, it was approved under the contract.
It wasn't paid. Correct. It wasn't invoiced. You didn't pay for anything that didn't happen.
All right, but my.
And then, so let me discuss, the way that,
Something, please?
the way that a television campaign should work. We'll start with, it's great to have a spot that talks just about Balloon Fiesta. That's great. That's not generally and usually what drives your long-term tourism, and tourism that will go throughout the year. What has to happen is we'll do a 2-day shoot, and in that shoot we plan for spots that are specific to driving tourism outside of New Mexico. We've been given and identified very specific markets that we're supposed to hit, a very specific audience that we're trying to pull in to take their tourism dollars. So we'll create the spots based on that. And so for some of our clients, they decide on, some of them only decide on 2. I've got one client that we're literally running 2 right now. And most of their budget then shifted over to placement.
Okay.
So just because it's a line item
Doesn't mean we're
doesn't
spending it.
mean, right. Because if production only costs, let's say that production only costs 10, great. Then that's money we can shift over to a buy.
Okay.
Well, I just don't want to be doing 2 things that are the same and paying 2 separate things. So if the city feels that they can do a better job on it, well, then let's just take that away and let the city do that particular fiesta or whatever event that you feel that you guys have got it, you know?
From what it's, I mean, I guess you hear, but I mean, from what it sounds like in the past, I mean, the city did it because, they were running up against something, but there was an opportunity. Now, to continue on, is there any plans going on making other videos, or we can hand it to 505 so they can, because I do think there's a difference between on the fiestas. I know you don't want to duplicate, but as long as we don't have a duplication of a fiesta video or so on, and we want to do year-round, which is fantastic, then let's do that. And then I'm glad there's clarification. Look, there's 40,000 in the budget. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to fill all that up with creative. Maybe we can make a few, or
Right,
we can make a few and do the rest as placement. I'm a placement guy. And if
Me too.
in that,
We love,
overhead in place out there, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, because I don't want
absolutely.
on the road.
We would,
the city come back to us, to lodger's tax, and say, look, we've got this fantastic opportunity to run these ads on the television advertisement. Well, we've already paid for this. Why are you coming back to us? You should be talking to these guys and see how you can incorporate your ideas with something that we've already paid for. We've allocated it for. You see what I'm saying?
I do, I completely see it,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
That's all I'm saying, because
Yeah.
we're doing 40,000 here, and then we're doing another 30,000 here. And they're supposed to be, that's what this contract is supposed to be doing. That's in their field.
Quite frankly, I trust the creativity to Sunny 505 more than myself and Chuck and Scott. I mean, we came up with a good idea, we ran with it, and we had some successes with it, but it was our first time trying it. That's not to say again that we won't try it further down the road, but we'll come back to the board and discuss that with you guys at some other time, if there is any time that we have any type of plans like that.
Yeah, because, you're paying somebody to do the job, but yet you're doing it.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
you know,
Yes,
let
ma'am.
let them do it. That's all I'm saying, you know?
And I can get you better rates, Lucas. I can negotiate you down.
I appreciate that. I know you can.
Yeah, and that came up last time too. I mean, if you produce it and if you have some of that power and rate power and you know, the power in placement as well, we talked about it. But I think you had brought this, I think some of this discussion came up because you brought up something the last time around, Scott. So was that?
I think we brought up several things, but one of the things, I think I emailed out to each of you what we paid Sunny 505 last year. And that was 90-something thousand, but the deal was 180 or whatever.
Right.
So
So it was
they
half.
only billed us for what they did.
We did.
So if they say there's 40,000, but they don't use it, they're not gonna bill us. So that's one of the things we've gotta keep in mind, is that just because it's in here, that's the most they can do on it, because that's what we put into the contract. But if they do less, they're only gonna bill us less. And so
Correct.
just because it says 40,000 doesn't mean they're going to bill us 40,000. So we've got to keep.
Right.
Those things actually have to be produced and we've got bills for, okay.
Well,
Correct. And if you ever need,
I just wanted to make
I've had
sure.
clients that come back and say that we need more or we need changes.
And you come up
We
with
can do
another
that.
30,000. You know, it's like, let them do it, because that's the contract.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
I guess, you know, we are requesting that everybody do something and come back and report. And I thank you, Scott, for getting us that breakdown on what we actually paid. I think we asked for that at the last meeting to see what we actually paid of the 185, I think was last year's, something like that.
90, I can't remember.
Yeah, so I guess, and I don't want to continue to blow the same horn, but, you know, we're almost the after the fact Lodgers Tax Board, way after the fact. So, you know, we sort of need to be sort of, you know, she talked about possibly doing a quarterly thing. I think we need to know what that is. Because, and no fault of hers or anyone else, but this is really the first time we ever get to see something, okay, and some kind of results. So all the questions, you know, that Georgina's talking about make sense to us, because you don't give us information and we're out here trying to figure it out on our own, okay? So I guess as we go forward, I would demand that we have our quarterly updates, whatever they are, you know, so that we at least know where we're at. And I would imagine you'll put a calendar together to see exactly what events are gonna be promoted, what events are gonna be worked on, what social media is gonna be doing for every single event, that kind of stuff. So I understand how that part works. But one of the concerns that I have is if we're generating about 700,000 a year and we pay this 189, that's about 27% of our budget, okay, on an annual basis. So of the 27%, some of them are placements, okay? So let's just say, you guys ran through some numbers a while ago, and one was 40 some, one was 15 or whatever, and it all sort of made sense to me. So in my mind, the 27% becomes smaller because now we're talking buys. I think that's how I look at it. So now we're doing placements, and now we're also paying for services, okay? You know, if it's this intent of this board to only be doing placements, well, now we're paying for services above and beyond just the placements. Okay, then when we want to do promotional things, when we want to do, capital improvements, like the benches we approved the last time. Well, we're sort of deviating all over the place on, you know, what we're using our Lodgers tax dollars for. We're going to pay those items that we need, and I can see the services that we need. I can see the placements that we need. But then to come back here and say, well, we can't fund that, or we can't do this, we can't do that. Well, we've sort of expanded from the three major areas to now services, okay? Which are included, I'm sure, in the way Lodgers tax can be utilized. So, okay, so we have capital improvement projects, we have promotions, which all of a sudden we are doing now, and it's supposed to be something wrong about it. We're doing placements, and now we have services. So now, to me, we're expanding into one more area, and an area that I'm sure it's covered by lodger's tax. So as all those things are going on, I'm saying to myself, well, we can't be hypocritical when we have people here that want to do X, Y, and Z, and we start to interrogate them about why they're going to not only do placements. Well, some events take more than that. So I think if there's a clarification that needs to be done and not having nothing to do with 7505, this board needs to figure out, well, what is acceptable? And I understand how much percentage of the 5% goes to X, Y, and Z. I'm starting to figure, well, I think we're really in a bad situation here because now we are adding what I consider a fourth item, which is services, which these people are gonna do on behalf of our community. I think we really have to define what all those things are.
Well, this is you're contracting for this service, so you're contracting for it, and as far as, nobody said that they needed to be all advised, so my preference would be, and like what everyone wants to see, is you'd want to maximize that position for it, so for the contractual services, that's one thing versus, I think what you're alluding to on not being able to use the money for certain purposes. The only other purpose is the right use is if we're not, say, advertising outside of town. Any of the purposes that's not lodger's tax related are the only things that were brought up as those issues.
I get the feeling, Mr. Chair, that you're the one that's primarily pushing the only marketing be done. And I really believe now that we have a better explanation of what lodger's tax can do, we need to expand to those other areas. And every time that we try to get some of those things addressed, there's a lot of pushback from you.
Well, I'm just trying to follow lodger's tax rules, so
No,
I recommend it to
well,
the.
lodger's
to the
tax
board.
rules according to you, but from what I'm hearing, it's something different than that. So I
There's-
think we need to expand
there's
to
best
find out
practices
what
and
our,
so on.
what our opportunities are.
Oh, and we should. So
Because
I-
it should
I
not only be
recommended,
marketing, we're not the only community that collects lodger's tax, and I guarantee we're not the only one that are doing what we're planning to do here.
Right, so some of the
So-
things that you had in the council or so on were explaining, hey, what can lodger's tax not be used or for not. And so they did mention something that the board needed to be educated on lodger's tax uses. So yeah, that was a hit. So what I've suggested to Scott and Lucas is that for one of the meetings, we do have new and old members, just have a refresher on the lodger's tax ordinance, best practices. There's a lodger's tax handbook that's by the Hospitality Association. There's many pathways to clear these things up of the issues that we're having, and those are the only things I'm referring to, and I'm only referring to them because of the experience of being lodger's tax for so long. I know the other board members have been on their file, but there might be changes in between or so on. But it's great to have a refresher as a board on what the lodger's tax board can do with the monies. But getting back to Sunny 505, is there any specific questions as far as the 505 contract here?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Eleanor, sorry.
I have a couple of questions.
Could we go back to the logo of the previous page?
Yeah. So this is your existing logo.
That's the existing logo. For the purpose of the community, a lot of people ask me what that wiggly line is. And I just happened to be around
I
when
don't,
the line
No, I
that's over the city of Las Vegas.
this is your existing logo?
Yeah,
We haven't
just-
touched that. So I
No
didn't know.
question for you. It's just a statement I'm going to make.
I'm so sorry. I don't know.
So the people asked me, and I was talking to Matt the other day, so the origin of that was when we were developing a brand for the city. There was, and we're trying to tie into the architectural history of the city. And actually, the parish hall came up as part of the drawing. And that is actually, looks like two things. It looks like the parapet of the parish hall, because that's where it came from. It used to have vigas sticking out of it, and it looked actually like the parish hall. But then it also looks like our previous logo, which was Hermit's Peak. So it actually combined those two elements in a more modern way back then. One thing that's changed that so that's the origin of that line. It's the parapet for Parish Hall tying into our architectural history. And then secondly, it tied into the existing logo of the time, which was Hermit's Peak, but it gave it a more fluid appearance. The other thing that's missing and over time that has gone away is the lettering in Las Vegas was stressed. It was stressed in terms of there was actual like print missing within it. So it looked like it was printed like on an old piece of board or something like that. I don't know if we could ever find that, but that was stressed lettering, and that basically tied into the historical aspect, or trying to give us a tie-in to history. So that's just my comment on the logo, if you're going to continue to use it. On the rack cards, you can go to the next page, the redesign of the historic rack card. I don't know what we're looking at. Does it include all the buildings that were on the rack cards, on his walking tour brochure, or what does it include?
Lucas, that's the Calumet, the Calumet Girl brochure?
Yep. But what that includes, sir, it's a map of the downtown district, all the historical areas in the downtown. It'll give you places of interest, like restaurants, certain like Lion Park is in there. It'll give them certain places of interest for people to go. So when they come in here, that's one of the most popular ones.
How many pages does it have?
It opens up. It's not so much pages. It opens up like a bigger poster, and then
It's a
like more than a trifold. It's like a
It's a quad. It's actually a quad fold. It's a 16 by 18, so it's not even a true quad fold. It's almost like
really big.
It's almost like 3 and it was a weird fold to get printed. It's almost like 3 and like 6/8. It's not even a 3/4.
No.
It's not, and that actually drives up your printing costs as well. So if we can redesign it,
So now,
just like your city guide. So I redesigned your city guide for Balloon Fiesta. And you'd never know it was all the exact same content because it actually has some space in it. We're gonna redesign it so that it can become a regular size map unfold. That will bring the print cost way down. And then also make sure that it's it's high resolution, so you can use it and have it printed wherever you want. It can be easily digitized, and then we can put it as a QR code and then translate it onto the website so that even if somebody doesn't have it in their hands, so let's say they leave it in the car, they probably still have it on their phone, and it'll interact the exact same way as the printed piece would.
okay, so now I'm lost because I thought what we were discussing at the last meeting, you described something else, and that sounds all good and well. I thought we were discussing the walking tour brochure, and I thought that's which was something that was used in the past. And I talked about the evolution of that. There used to be a walking tour brochure that described the building, each building that was on the register in a particular district. So you had one for Newtown, you had one for Old Town, you had Old Town Las Vegas, you had for Douglas 6th Street, Railroad District. So those were combined into one, and it became the Santa Fe Trail walking tour brochure. I thought we were talking about that. So it had a number of pages, and it had a drawn photo, a hand-drawn photo depiction of the building, and then a description of what that building was about, so people would walk around with it. I thought we were getting that along with the digitized version of it, so that you'd have that at the visitor center when people showed up and wanted a hard copy. There's people like myself maybe that want that.
I think you had brought up some of that, but I'm not sure if it's it may be confused, but this was on the last lodgers tax meeting.
Yeah, we discussed.
But I don't think we discussed it with 505
No,
specifically. Did we?
specifically, maybe that's where I misunderstood things.
And we've discussed it with 505. They did not do the piece. The piece does not state who did the piece, so we don't know where it was printed.
Right, and you were gonna
Back to
find out about.
Citizens,
Yeah.
historic preservation, we've worked through chamber, nobody there has any original documentation of it. So we do have a couple of copies left, so we need to figure out how we can get them digitized or whatever. If we just took them in to reprint the way they are, they're not gonna come out very well.
They're not gonna, then they're not accurate because some of those buildings
Some of the
are
buildings have
gone.
been, but we would wanna leave those in and just maybe add a line that says this building was taken down in whatever year, but just to keep that history alive. in
Then we
there.
want to make that a separate project. I thought it was part of this.
Right.
Secondly, the plaques that you see on the buildings around town, they're tied into that. So CCHP, as we had the walking tour brochure, we also added plaques. We had a plaque project that we did with a certified local government grant. And then we tied that into the walking tour brochure. So I think that should be a project. It's great that we have this, now that you've described it to me. But, yeah, I can help you with looking at that.
Yeah, Lucas, Lucas and Scott, if we want to, so let's say you guys want to discuss this a little further, and creating a separate project. What we can do is, once we've got all of this first contract kicked off, we can always do a secondary piece, just a secondary job that sits on its own, it's invoiced on its own, and it doesn't have to sit with this specific contract.
Go ahead, Georgie.
That brochure you're talking
So that
about,
way,
I was here when that came out, and I remember with CCHP, when we were getting it designed, and the money came from lodger's tax, and the research came from CCHP and the museum. They combined and worked and put that information down together. And it's kind of like a long brochure, pink. Have you seen that one? There's still some of them still floating around. It's really great for the walking tour. The trolley number 11 uses that. Once they do the tour, they give the people these handouts, and one of the handouts is that, because then people go back to some of the neighborhoods and they want to look more into it. But that is a really good brochure, and it does need to be updated because some of the structures now are gone, and they're, I don't know what else happened to them, but that is a really good
So we can
Together.
look at a separate project for that.
separate project.
I didn't mean to kind of take us off in a different direction. Let me see what else I had. I think the quarterly reports are included in the reporting that we would hear where the status is on certain things. That would include also your financial outlay in terms of how much you've been invoiced. So not only do you hear about, what ads were bought, et cetera, but perhaps we could also hear about how much has been spent on a particular line item. That would be important for the board to hear in terms of where we're at with that.
What happened to the analytics? I thought we were
Oh,
going to get some reports of analytics on,
That's not through them.
Oh, it's not through
a
them.
separate group
Yeah.
which
Okay.
we met
But
with
that's
this
gonna be a part of a discussion that was entered in, when they were approving the agenda. So we'll have a slight discussion on it, just an overview of it, because it's not the full detail yet.
so, under the Sunny 505, can they produce an analytics so we can see how if something is working or it's not working?
Yeah, for
you know?
example, on the Fall Fiestas, we put out a Facebook page, ad, of course, announcing the Fall Fiestas, and Dita was able to give us the viewership. I think the last time I spoke to her, we had over, she could tell us how many people viewed it, how many people shared it. So we had over 56,000 views in just that 1 week from her pushing that ad out there. So we really got across our message across a lot of people. 56,000 people is a lot of people to be looking at that ad. And then we had over, I believe it was 200 shares, Dita, that people shared.
oh gosh.
They shared
Yeah,
something with it, so those 200 are sharing. We're getting more people, and so those are the organic ones that she's talking about. So it's really good. It worked out really well. Those are the type of analytics she can give me.
Okay, because that says a lot to me.
Yeah.
When the city comes up and says, we need some crazy amount of money for the fiestas, but when I look at the analytics, it's telling me people
It's
are
working.
looking at it.
It's working, yeah.
It's working.
Yeah.
The electric light parade, what are we getting? Where are the analytics? shows us, do we need to put more money into that, you know? So I really depend on looking at those, because it tells me a lot.
Go ahead, Alan.
Could we see the page with the budget? Could we see the page with the budget?
Oh, sure. Okay.
So, Mr. Marquez,
And I just want to remind you that, you know what, just like we've already identified, is if we don't use everything and if we don't spend what's in that line item, then you're not going to get billed for it. So if something doesn't cost as much as what's in there, then you don't pay for that. And at the same time, if we get to the end of the year and it says, and we say, okay, you've already requested that we spend, let's say we already spent the 40,000 and it's done. And let's say you say, you know what, we need to spend more. We have this much money and we want you to put this much money in ads. That's fine.
well, that would require.
We can do that.
Would require an amendment, take that through city council, correct?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Would require an amendment to take through city council.
Yes, that would be an amendment.
That's how most of our contracts work, is if you require an additional spend, then
Lucas,
it literally sits outside almost like an additional, like a secondary small contract.
I understand. Mr. Marquez, Scott, have you gone through this budget?
Yeah, we've gone through it, quite a few times. We've gone through it to look at it over.
I mean, we've discussed a lot. You've heard our discussion. I was just reviewing the minutes again, looking at them in terms of our discussion from the last week. You came back with this. Are you comfortable with this? Is this something that you're comfortable taking to city council?
So looking at all this stuff right here, it's promoting, it's marketing, it's advertising the city of Las Vegas. As per our lodger's tax, we are a Class B county. We have to spend 50% of our lodger's tax on advertising, promoting, and marketing. And that's what this is doing. I mean, we could split hairs and take money off here and take money off there, and that's okay, because that's what I want to hear that. And I gotta apologize to Sunny 505 and to you, to the board, because you guys never heard this before. That's why this has taken so long. It's only fair that you guys got your chance to go ahead and say, I want this, I don't want that. I just think the way it's set up is the way it worked last year. We didn't pay the full amount. We wound up paying 90,000. I kind of want to see if we can start getting some RFP out there to get some private entities doing some events, so we could only concentrate on 2 or 3, maybe at the most, the city of Las Vegas itself, which would probably bring that cost even more down. So that's my thoughts. Me taking it forward, I'll take it forward as long as the board recommends it.
So you sat down with Dita and discussed this, went over it, and you have an idea of how you're gonna spend these dollars and how they're gonna apply?
We have an idea of how we're gonna spend most of this money, yes, sir.
You think that's targeted in terms of, I mean, you have more experience right now.
Yes, we feel that it's targeted, and we, specifically now for the Balloon Fiesta, we targeted the Balloon Fiesta, and we had these flyers made. We had certain commercials put up. We had things that we can target to the Balloon Fiesta. Now we gotta concentrate on the tree lighting event, and we got our light parade coming up, Luces en el Rio, things of that nature, that we're gonna go and target those events next, and really look into it. Again, we're marketing, we're promoting, and advertising these things, and we're following Lodgers Tax Code.
So we have hopes, I know, as a board, to get more local organizations to come forward and start to develop events and bring events towards here. Instead of the city running events, it would be, we look forward and hope that the organizations come forward and say, we're asking for funding for these events. So will these events be marketed through this process so that we don't have to pay them also for advertising and promotion?
Yes.
Can we utilize this contract to help market those events?
Good point.
Let me close this door, sir. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that question one more time.
It's always been a goal for the long time, if you encompassing marketing companies, want them to be promoted.
I apologize, sir.
Well, I guess, we funded the dance thing and we funded the Dia de los Muertos. So we expect that for that event, but they came in for advertising promotion. And I think we could fund things like in terms of services and things like that, matter, something to help them. But can we use this contract to help market those events? Will we, I guess? I think we can. Question is,
I think we've already done it, to be honest with you. I think we've already marketed Dia de los Muertos. Did we market Dia de los Muertos last year with you guys, Dita?
No,
So it's pretty
Did
much,
not.
been pretty much city events that we've marketed with Sunny 505. I can check into that. I'd have to look at their contract closely.
brought that as examples.
That's a good idea, though. That is a good idea.
I know that Chuck has a list of events, because I utilized it when I was working with FEMA, when we were having events with FEMA. I know he keeps a list of events. It's important that that list gets to Sunny 505,
Yes.
so that they can say, yeah, we can help you market this, this, and this.
And Dita does request those lists. She does request those lists from him. And again, I want to tell the board, the city, they sponsor more than 80% of these events, if not 90% of these events. We have very few private people like the Dia de los Muertos coming forward. That's why I was so excited for them to come forward, and I want to keep them doing their own events so that the city doesn't have to take it on. But yes, I see where you're coming from, Mr. Martinez. I think that's a good idea, something I could look into. And if we could assist these private events with this, as long as it's promoting and marketing the city of Las Vegas, we might be able to do that.
I'll take this call. Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
So, I mean, I guess the biggest connection, and we ran into this question before and with prior marketing is making that connection. So if someone outside of the city wants to do an event, then how do they connect with, or they go via the city, but how do they connect with 505 to put them in the scope of work for marketing for the rest of the year, that they could, it's like, hey, I'm creating this event, and that's if it's a new event. The old events, we should want to throw in there and see if we could establish marketing for all of them. But I think the hardest point in the past when we have had a marketing company is, okay, I'm going and asking for money individually, but how do I approach getting the event marketed by the marketing company that's marketing the entire town for the year?
I think that's something that that person throwing that event feels that they can do or would want to do. They would approach myself, Scott,
Yeah.
or Chuck, and see how we can assist them with Dita getting their event out there, promoted through Sunny 505. I still kind of feel that we should hold Sunny 505 to the city and let the private events do their own. But if it's something that
They could do both. It's a coordination of, right? That
Okay.
way, and when it's worked this way, it's so because for the events, they could focus on carrying on the event or putting in other places, but they're not duplicating efforts that 505 can do. And
Okay.
especially on the scope or go wider, and it's helping each individual event. So it's
Okay.
kind of in coordination of that can help them in going beyond, because some of the time, some of these events, yes, they're requesting the money, but it's a shorter period of time, and so on. They don't have the reach that 505, and so they're having to come up with marketing skills at the request. And so it would be great if the professional company we've hired for the city helps assist in doing that year round. Especially the ones that are happening every year, right? We could keep pounding it.
Yeah.
Every year it's part of our kind of, this is what we're, and it becomes a staple. The Dia de los Muertos for Las Vegas becomes a staple because we're marketing it over and over again year round.
So, I'm sorry.
Sure, I guess my question to Lucas is, and Scott, you guys have reviewed this, you went through this process with Dita, and I guess my recommendation would be, what do you all recommend to the Lodge Tax Board?
Again, let me go back a little bit in time. When we had the finance director in one of our meetings, he's told us that we're about $700,000 a year that we make in lodger's tax. I'll fall back to the fact that we are a Class B county that needs to spend 50% of that lodger's tax on marketing, advertising, and promoting. If we don't, whatever happens with the other 50%, if we don't spend that one, that could possibly be taken. So we want to make sure that we're spending our 50% in the right way, in the right avenue. So I mean, this isn't even close to being 50% of the 100 and,
27.
so we're right, you know,
I mean, if you remember back to our budget, this, and that's if we spend this entire contract. To my chagrin, it's a smaller portion of the entire whole.
I mean, it's a big window that we have, and this is a small portion of it. And they're a big benefit to me and Scott. She's helped us through a lot of these hard and rough things, and, you know, I'm very pushy on them, and they respond. And, you know, I appreciate them, so I'm willing to take it forward to council with the recommendation of the board.
Of how much?
So there.
189?
189, correct.
I believe it was 189.
Yeah, they had it. The new one is 189. The
But
one
I
you
will take
gave
recom-
us
I'm sorry.
was 185.
Yeah, I will take a recommendation from the board on the amount, but I'm willing to go forward with whatever the board recommends.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like you've developed a good relationship, and I mean, look, you guys are going to be steering this ship and working with Sunny 5 going forward. We meet every quarter unless there's an emergency, so there has to be the set comfortable level there. I mean, would you say even outside of this contract, is Sunny 505 helping you in deciding other factors that's going along with our other things that are outside of 505? Are we getting that extra added value by taking some of their advice with the 505 contract?
Yeah, yes, we are.
Okay. Only thing I have to say in there is just on the contract level. I know we've asked for it as a board, but on a contract level, look, we're just mandating you provide us metrics, reports on what we're doing, and as they're, and you could tie it just like with Elmer said, as we've spent, what's the, basically metrics and at least markers, like where, you know, goal markers. I know a lot of this is maintenance, but the only thing that's troubled me with it for some of it is that there's not like, hey, we've accomplished this or goal markers. So if that's
Got that.
something that needs to be, you know, in the contract, that would only help us to make sure we're staying on goal here, saying, hey, this is what we've accomplished at the end of the year. And if we don't have that, we surely need the reports and metrics saying, look, this is what we did, but this is how many people saw it, this is how many people spent. Everything we have to back up what we've done.
Okay, and the board's fine with doing that quarterly? Okay. We can get with Dita and make sure that happens.
Any other discussion?
If there's no other discussion, I
I'll
recommend
entertain a
that
motion.
we'll allow the staff to recommend the 189, and I so move.
Is that including the quarterly report, sir?
Yes, if it should be, that should just add it to the contract.
Okay.
That's just in contract, correct?
So that would be a short, I mean, I like Matt, I like the quarterly report idea. But I also like what Elias did, Mr. Trujillo did with the Chamber of Commerce in that written report. So both a short summary of what happened and in terms of a written report, and then also a presentation to the board.
We could do that, sir.
Okay, just include that in the contract. With that, if you'll amend your motion
Yes, I
to
will.
include that. I'll second the motion.
That amendment? Okay. Would you like a roll call, sir?
Roll call?
Ms. Georgina Angel Ortega? Ortega Angel, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Matt Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Helen Strader?
Yes.
Mr. Elmer Martinez?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Dita. We appreciate your time. And
Yeah.
we'll be calling you, okay?
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dana.
Thanks. Bye.
You know, Mr. Chair, if I may, you know,
Is she off?
I'm in a competing business, so I understand our metrics are different than a agency would do. But, you know, just for example, you know, let's just say that, and I think I'm going off of numbers that you quoted a while ago, Lucas, and I hope I'm right. 50,000 or 56,000 views on Facebook, okay? And then 200 shares, and then there's more on top of that. Okay, so the metrics are easy to track when you have a system like an account, like Instagram, Facebook, that counts all those people, okay? But the ultimate number that we care about is the 15,000 that came. Okay? So although 200,000 people saw it, at the end of the day, that's a small percentage of the 200,000 that actually came. Okay? So I guarantee you, we're not gonna find too many metrics that talk about that number, because those numbers you'll get, and you guys can work on those numbers together, okay? So I love the fact that we could be the most popular social network, site on earth, but that doesn't mean anybody's ever gonna come, okay? At the end of the day, you know, we're always lacking that little extra step to find out, well, how many of these actual 200,000 actually landed up coming, you know, or having an interest? You know, I think in most cases, just for example, the Fall Fiesta, because I sort of track it as the 4th of July fiestas, that's a demographic of people that we're trying to get here, okay? And if I look around at the Fall Fiesta or the 4th of July fiesta, the people that are there are some young families, I'm not gonna say there's not, but I guarantee you that a good 80, 70% of them have to be 40, 45 and older.
You're 100% right. You're 100%
So I think all the numbers that you guys give us are interesting, but at the end of the day, you know, we're not doing a 20 to 30-year-old event. And I'm glad when Highlands brought their numbers up and they talked about their event, which is a whole different demographic that I guarantee you social media is gonna work for. It isn't gonna work for 45, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100-year-olds that go to the 4th of July and Fall Fiesta. So we almost have to make sure that we have to be
surprised.
careful. Well,
You have a Facebook, right?
yeah, no, I don't, and I hope I never do.
Yeah, honestly,
But our
and
stations
I
do.
know that that'll come in our conversation later, but.
But you know what I'm
you-
talking
you-
about.
You really hit it,
I
you really
I
hit
don't
the
wanna
numbers
be,
close.
I don't want us to have the world's greatest social media site if we can't convert that to dollars.
The connection, right?
Yeah.
And I honestly, I think when we did have the Fall Fiesta, we had a lot of competing factors. First off, I know we did a lot more than what the Bean Day did. But we had the Zobra going on. We had Santa Fe Fiestas
No,
going
no,
on.
I think it was
So
successful
we-
because it was full, okay?
I thought it was a great event.
I think
People
it,
loved
considering
it.
the short amount of time to put it together, all the demographics that came, you know, all the logistics that came to putting this whole thing together and trying to attract as many as possible, I think it was a successful event. But at the end of the day, we have to be careful what all the numbers mean. Because at the end of the day, it's how do you convert to money? And the money is, how do we generate more revenue here? So we have lodgers tax, we have grocery receipts tax, that we have things that are actually affecting our community. So I always say there's always this little bit of element that's not tied in. I don't want to be the best social site. I want to be the most productive social site.
The only ones that gonna, so in the past, and so in the hotel industry, we're asking the same questions, right? How did this connect to, and even in our co-ops for advertising, we're trying to like, well, how do we know this is actually translating and customers coming to us for it? And the only connections you have are some of the metrics that it told you exactly that. They clicked on this site and they booked a room. So some of the metrics, especially with New Mexico True, and they kind of score the packages in some of them, but you can choose. You can choose some of the ones where, hey, I want a higher ratio, or it's the exact metric. They saw it and they actually came here and we were able to track it. But a lot of the work is putting the two and two together, right? So taking that step is, okay, what did we do here? How did we figure out that they actually saw an ad or saw something, came in and spent the night? Making those connections, but you've already have other companies that you're working with the geolocation and using the financial information. Look, even using increases of where you've targeted, and all of a sudden that X amount of people showed up during that time are good markers. But in its own, yes, we have to analyze it. It can't be the end all be all. But at the end, you also want some reports out of them. It can't just be, hey, they're doing something, it's working. Some of it needs to be, okay, what are we doing? And part of the translation, like Matt said, could be, okay, what metrics do we have to say how did they actually get here?
And Mr. Chair, if I may, we have to also consider that, you know, and I know that the hotel folks look at the lodgers tax. It's also restaurants, it's gas stations, it's galleries, it's a number of other things that impact our community, okay? And just to give an example, we're gonna hopefully start the Economic Development Committee here pretty soon, but this Sunday, we only had 2 restaurants open in Las Vegas. 2 restaurants, not fast food.
We should get 2 restaurateurs on the board then.
Well, I think we need to get more restaurants into our town, okay?
Again,
Because,
that's
one of the things it's difficult, I mean, the impact that they made on those 2 restaurants that were open is almost mind numbing, okay?
We're almost heading into the type of discussion that we'll be having at the end. Everything you're talking about,
And I don't have your information,
yeah,
okay?
and I want
So I'm
to
just
give it to you guys.
I'm just telling you that.
And I'm
at the-
actually kind of excited to give it to you guys, so I want to make sure that we
Yeah,
kind of
so-
save the best for last, you know?
But
what I mean?
those are the kind of things that, I look at lodger's tax as a whole bunch of other things, because it
Yeah.
impacts gross receipts tax, okay?
Yeah.
All of that helps in some way. Unfortunately, Elmer, I know we can't transfer lodger's, gross receipts tax to lodgers, so we can, spend more money for all of the things we want to do. But I just wanted to point those things out, because I think, let's not get misconstrued with numbers, especially in social media. Because I'll tell you what, for that demographic that it serves, oh my God, there's nothing better. In fact, those kids should be worried that they're tracking them completely. They know exactly what they bought, where they're at, how far away they are from the next place they're gonna buy something from, you know what I mean? Because they have an algorithm that figures out what they're gonna buy next,
Absolutely.
So it's not, if the numbers help, if it's the dollars, that's what's important to me.
All right, so we're moving on to board office elections.
Yes, so, through our bylaws, it does say that when there is new members that'll be coming into the group, thereafter, when a new member are seated on the board, the term of office for each officer shall run until the subsequent election. But it does say that the voting will happen at the first annual meeting or the first regular meeting, this being the first regular meeting, which is our quarterly meeting. So there is a new board member on here, Almer Martinez. I believe the reappointment of Mr. Krutek and Ms. Georgina will go ahead and happen, I believe, here pretty soon. I believe on the next council meeting, I would assume. But if not, we're ready to do some board elections. I'll let you guys discuss amongst yourselves what you guys feel and what direction the board wants to go in. And then we could go ahead and you guys can decide from there.
Are we getting other board members?
There is potential for one more board member, but they haven't brought her forward yet, so, but we did recommend one more.
Would that be in addition to what we have already?
Yeah, we're trying to get to that number that me and Krutek were speaking about, 7. That's what we want. We want our 7. The state says we have to have 5. So we're in compliance with the state right now. The city of Las Vegas wants us to have 7, and that's what we're shooting for is our 7-member board. And I think that's a great idea because you guys take on a lot by yourselves and get a lot of things done. And 2 more heads might help a little bit more, you know what I mean? And maybe not, I don't know, but I mean, I think the 7 board member would be a great way to go.
Do people have to request to be on the board?
Some do, but we work with a lot of people during the business license time and this and that, and we recognize some of these people. Again, there has to be 2 at large, 2 lodgers, and 2 business people, right? Am I correct? And then, or no, 3 at large, I'm sorry, 3 at large. And then there's 2 lodgers and 2 business people. So we're looking for 1 more lodger, and I think, there's another at large?
I think so.
I think it's another at large.
I think there's so with the 7, so the 7 has what, 3 the 3 at large, members of the public.
Yeah.
The way I understand it is it has to be 2 lodgers, has to be 2 business.
Right.
The other 3 could be another lodger, could be another business, could be just a
Members of the
citizen.
Yep. But we have a good mixture already in here. We have our lodgers, we have our at large, we have our businessmen and
See, I
women.
thought Gina was a lodger and she
No,
told me
she's an
not,
at-large.
so we have to have 2 lodgers.
We're missing a
So we're
lodger.
missing a lodger.
And as far as the 2 in the business, that's,
And
And the-
business, I
and the
guess
one that
we're
we did
missing a
name-
business.
we're missing a
I'm
business.
business. Yeah, I'm a business.
Because your business in Oliver resigned.
Right.
So we're recommending another lodger. And she's,
You're gonna need another lodger and another business.
And we made a recommendation on
Yeah.
another business. We don't know what they'll do. They're just our
Up to the mayor.
recommendations.
That's up to the
We have
mayor
nothing
at that point in
after
time.
that to do with it.
So, yeah. I gotta step out real quick, just real fast, and I'll be right back if you guys wanna discuss that.
Well, I would imagine, and I don't know, I've been here for a little while, but I would imagine we need a chair and maybe possibly a vice chair.
Chair and a vice chair would be nice. That way, if the chair is absent, we don't have to vote who would run the meeting. The vice chair can step right in. We had that in a situation in another meeting where we didn't have a vice chair, so the board had to elect somebody to chair the meeting. So that gets a little more difficult.
Well, I'd recommend that we, if he approves of it, of the position, that we nominate Elmer Martinez for chair because of his vast experience. It's funny to hear you guys talking, and he's talking about the process that he used to put this whole system in place. And I think that that would be a good addition, and maybe he can spend time with, he's somewhat retired, I guess, from what I can tell. So he might be able to spend a little more time, working with the staff and that kind of stuff.
So then would you be willing to be the vice chair?
No, I don't want to be a member, board, what do you call it, chair at all, because I'm already on 2 other boards.
We would need a vice chair.
First, we need to see if there's any other nominations for chair.
I think Elmer would be a good one.
Somebody can move.
I don't know. I think you would.
Well, I guess first you have to ask Elmer if he would accept it.
I haven't been able to see him. Where is he?
He's hiding from
Oh, he's hiding from me.
So what's the term?
6 years? I don't know. It's 4, I think, right? 3 to 4? 2 to 4, I think.
Lucas had the bylaws pulled up. I would think they're annual.
Oh.
Because he said after the beginning of the first meeting of each new year. So I would think we're supposed to, a lot of things have not been being done like they were supposed to. We're trying to bring things in line with what bylaws say, what the ordinances say. That's why we're trying to get the number of members up on our boards. We're trying to educate ourselves too as to how we need to be doing it. So he's walking back in so we can ask him.
Homer, what's the term?
Would the term be 1 year? Is it elections every new year?
The term of office for each officer shall run until the subsequent election. Vacancy of office, let me see if I can find it.
You said something about the elections had to be the first meeting.
Elections of officers shall take place at the annual meeting of, yeah, so it's at an annual meeting, so every year. Annual meeting, sir. So, I mean, and, this being our first, but if there's a new board member, it says at the first regular meeting, which is, this is our first regular meeting.
That'd be okay.
So shall we vote?
First,
If we hear no other nominations, I assume we've had one nomination, and we've asked for others.
okay, it's a. Who was the nominee?
It was Elmer.
Okay.
Well, I moved in that nomination cease, and I'll need a second, I think.
A second.
Okay. Then we can vote.
Do we have to vote on nomination ceasing, or?
We can with just a regular yea or nay vote, I think.
A roll call, right?
On the election, there's a roll call.
Right. Are we voting to cease nominations?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Or cease, so I can run a roll call, sir?
Was that the motion was to cease?
was
The
to cease.
second on the cease?
Yes, Helen seconded.
Okay.
Right, I'll go.
Mr. Gino Ortega Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Matt Martinez? Mr. Elmer Martinez?
Abstain.
Abstain? Mrs. Hohenstratter? Yes. We have three yeses and one abstain. Motion carries, sir.
So for the record, do we want to have a vote to elect Elmer? He was the only candidate, so he'd either be elected by acclamation or we can vote, whichever.
I move that we approve by acclamation. Wait a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Schroeder. Roll call, sir. Ms. Georgina Ortega Angel?
Yes.
Mr. Matt Martinez?
Yes.
I can ask Mr. Krutek now, right? Mr.
Yes.
Krutek Bakta?
Yes.
Mr. Alma Martinez? Abstain. Mrs. Helen Strader? We got four yeses, and Mr. Martinez is now our chair.
Congratulations.
Chair next meeting.
Next meeting, yeah.
Now we got the vice chair, right?
Yes,
We now need a recommendation for a vice chair
for nomination.
or nomination.
Don't look at me.
We just elected a chair and vice chair for the charter commission, so I can't.
Why don't we wait till we get another person or two before we vote on that? Because none of us seem to want it.
You're out of town,
I'm not competent to do it.
I think,
Is it a consensus? Do you want to discuss it? Do you want to table it?
we can table it until we get a new member.
Yeah, I don't know if that's legal, but I would,
We don't have a list of officers, so I think we can do pretty much what we want.
I don't see anywhere where it says.
at this time, we have nobody.
I think
Seems to want to.
So it needs to, the board of, it has to consist of a chairperson and a vice chair. Has to, it says. It doesn't say.
I'd be willing to, Mr. Bakta would take it, only because he has experience in running the board and, and he's done it for a long time, and thank you for your service. You've done it a long time, and appreciate that, I'm sure that. How long have you been, did you do it? Got stuff to vice for chair for how long?
It's been a while.
At least a decade, I'd say, for sure. He's been here over a
Decade?
decade.
I think we're overshooting in the decade, but yeah, it's been a little bit.
About a decade. I think you got about that much time, I think.
I think
Like
he was
9 years.
chair when I
of
left.
being-
Yeah, he was here. He's the one that helped us put up the reader board. As a matter of fact, we gotta talk about that reader board, guys. But,
Would you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Any other nominations? Somebody want to move to cease nominations?
I'll move to cease.
I'll second it.
I go ahead and call Mr. Chair,
And that's to just.
roll call
cease.
to cease nominations. Ms. Georgina Angel Ortega
Yes.
Angel. Mr. Matt Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Krutek Bakta,
Yes.
Mr. Alma Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. Helen Strader. Thank you, sir. Motion carries.
Okay, now, do we have to,
Motion to approve?
do you want to elect by acclamation?
Yes,
Is that what you did
acclamation.
last time?
Yeah, I so move.
Second.
Ms. Georgina Ortega Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Matt Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Krutek Bakta will probably abstain, I would assume. Mr. Alma Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. Helen Strader.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Motion carries. So we do have our chair and our vice chair. Mr. Alma Martinez is our chair, Mr. Krutek Bakta is our vice chair. And we thank all you guys. Thank you guys for all the stuff you guys do for us. It's very, very difficult, and lodger's tax to me has been one of the most confusing things ever, but I've been reading ordinance after ordinance. I've gotten legal opinions. I've looked at other communities to see what they're doing. I've spoken to other people that are running lodger's taxes in other communities. We have a lot of similarities to Santa Fe, and I'm very proud to say that Santa Fe has a lodger's tax of $17 million a year. We're a minute amount compared to them, but they have an oversight just like ours, and it made me feel a lot better that our board is a good board. We have a tough board, and I like it. I appreciate everything you guys do over here, so thank you guys for everything you guys do for the city of Las Vegas.
We were
Often-
pleased to get to visit with Santa Fe because they
Yes.
they
How
gave us
often
a lot.
is the amount considered for the amount of lodger's tax? I mean, how often do they determine that?
Well, it's reported monthly. So, the hotels, the Airbnbs, they all have to report by the 25th of the following month. So it comes in monthly. Now, we don't always get those numbers as quickly in the office as we would like because the monies go into finance and then the reports come to us later. So we're usually lacking behind, but, and there were a couple of months I think they had, they were low staffed through finance, and so we kind of got a couple of months all at once. But it is reported monthly, and so I'm trying to begin to track that so that we can watch how much is coming in this month compared to last year, same month. So I'm trying to set records up like that so we can kind of begin to get an idea.
My question was, how often is the amount determined? For example, I think it's 4.5%, isn't it?
It's 5% for lodger's tax.
It's 5, so when do they, who determines when it changes?
The council?
That's a council, the last revision was in 2018 when they took it from 4% to 5%,
Which is the max.
which is
Which is
max.
max.
It's a
For the
max, sir.
state
Yes, sir.
statute, it's max.
Yes, it's maxed.
This 5% doesn't seem like very much.
It doesn't, but it does add up. It does add
does
up,
add
and again, like the way Krutec said, we have to make sure we use that first half as of it, all the money that we have as for marketing and advertising our events or the city of Las Vegas.
Since Scott brought it up, so you get a report from finance department.
I get all of the statements like that Mr. Botka fills out for his hotels. So he fills those out, he submits the payment to the cashiers.
So
Then they kind of do their thing, and then they end up sending me that stack of everybody who's paid their lodgers. So then I go through each one and I'm putting them into a spreadsheet. Now, we cannot tell any of you what any of the hotel or the Airbnb has collected and paid. We
That's what I'm
cannot
gonna-
tell you individually. We can give you a total amount for the month, but we cannot tell you what anyone has collected and paid.
So when they receipt the money in, that goes into the computer system. Why are you having to tabulate by hand?
I'm not in finance, so I'm sure that there's a way we can get to it, but I don't know if it would give us the breakdown. And what I'm trying to do is to be able to go, okay, this place paid $5,000 in lodger's tax last year in September, and this year in September, they're only paying $1,000. So that's gonna kind of be something that I'm gonna just try to watch, because I
Yeah,
wanna know.
That's for staff, that's administrative. We don't get to see that.
Right.
So you should be getting a.
We could probably get a report from them of the total amount collected for that month.
Yeah, we'd want to know total amount for the
Right.
month.
So that's what I'm
That's all
saying.
that's all we get to see.
But administrative, you could ask for the
And-
detail.
Right, and so that's what I'm just doing is,
I'm sure Morris knows how to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
They
the system would
used to do it
generate a
before.
we'll have to
report.
see, it's,
You should do it before, that I know.
okay,
The system would generate a report. It would provide each hotel, and then the total at the bottom. We would provide the total to the board.
we can ask for that again, I did ask previously, but we can ask for it again.
But then on the administrative side, if there was somebody that was delinquent a lot.
We need to then fine them for the collections, they need to pay the
And that's where the
penalties.
city takes action in terms of administrative action.
And so, what I've recommended before, and hopefully at some point, I know that for, say, utilities or so on, that's, you can log in and pay for it, so you're already tracking payments in that way. My hope is that at some point with IT is that stuff like lodger's tax payments and so on are also included, so then it's easy to see straight away on a monthly basis. Look, for New Mexico GRT, it's pretty quick for the state to figure out whether it's done or not because we're all doing it electronically. So the hope is in the future, if we make requests for IT, whatever, like, look, we need to add stuff like lodger's tax in there, or even whatever, licenses or anything of the nature, so it's easier for us to track said things. So then you're not going and gathering things, you have it immediate for you because everybody's electronically filed it,
Right.
and you immediately know whether what your totals are and whatnot, for that period.
That's just something we have to
Yeah.
work with finance on.
Going on future, yeah. Okay, so we're almost at the end of,
Other business.
mine, but we're into other business.
Oh, okay. So, yes, sir. So, at the beginning, when we did have our approval of the agenda, there was, motion made to go ahead and give a little bit of a slight overview of what we had, discussed today, with, our analytics, people that we have. The city has a contract with Placer AI, and what they deal with is analytics as far as, they'll let us know how many people attend events. They'll let us know what restaurants are compatible with our city, where our leakage is going. In other words, where we're leaving when we leave our community, where are we going to shop, where are we going to eat, and all that stuff. We had a little refresher with Angie Gonzalez this morning. She's our coach on the Placer AI, and we got a little bit of feedback on the Fall Fiesta. And what they did tell us was that Matt was right. Mr. Martinez was right. The age areas that visited the fiestas, there was some 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds that were there.
All the three of them.
Yeah, there was some, and it was a small percentage, but the bigger part of it was from, I believe it was from 35 on, right? Or was it
40.
about 40 years all the way up to 65 plus, and these were big numbers.
40 is not that old.
No, we're still young, crew take.
65 plus isn't either.
But it went from 40 to 65 plus, and that's kind of funny that it hit that way, because when we did our New Mexico True Grant, they asked us what kind of demographics we're looking for, and Scott brought up those baby boomers and the retirees. I kind of felt and was leaning more towards the younger crowd, and like the 40s, around that area. And those are the numbers that hit. We were really impressed that they showed us that we were on the right line of what kind of people are coming to our events. Now, I still say that I don't know if we got the best accurate look at it, because we had a lot of competition. Like I said, we had the Zobroch, which is a big event. We had Santa Fe Fiestas, which is a big event. And then, of course, there was other festivities going on around us. There was a music event in Raton. There was Bean Day. There was Taos had an art event going on. So there was a lot of
The
competition.
differences between historical things, the tours, those tend to trend to higher demographics. That's what they're thing. And then I guess as you go into for our music and so on, depending on the band, we could be trending lower. But old, young, I see it every day. I get up in the morning, my mom's already on Facebook, and she's a senior citizen. So, and I see it, just across that's uncles, and they're there. They're the target, and I don't like it, because I think even for our little 4-year-old girl, there's a zombie vacation. But those are the facts. The facts are the facts. People are on these screens. Those are the millions thing, and so it behooves us to not take advantage of that. But I think just seeing what we see and what can we do about it. And then even if we see an older crowd, it doesn't mean we can't say, hey, how do we grow this event? We have enough of the older demographic. What do we need to do here to get younger people in here? And if some of it is an entertainment or so on, that's an adjustment or recommendation that we can make with the events.
So we did have over 15,000 people. I thought it was a successful event. I really thought, I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people. My goal was to go around to each restaurant in the park to see what kind of people they were having. And as I walked into the Plaza Hotel, there was a good crowd in there. I walked into the Rialto, they were loaded with people. I walked into JC's, they had a lot of people in there eating. We got a lot of comments. A lot of these restaurants, other than the actual food vendors themselves, ran out of food. So it was a good crowd. They were there to spend money, and they were there to rent rooms. And I really thought that the Fall Fiesta was a success. Even though our numbers were 15,000, I wish there could have been a little bit more, in my opinion. We did have some hard competition around us. Had we picked a different day, I don't know if we would have had the successes we had. So I'm really happy that we picked the day that we picked. And if we'd ever have to do it again, then I'd pick those same days again.
Mr. Chair, Lucas, one of the things that I think, the Fall Fiesta happened because of the circumstances that, because of the water flood that we had in June. But just so you know, and I think we have something that we can really put our shingle on is the fact that the Fourth of July Fiesta is already an established event, okay? So pretty much what it boils down to, except for maybe an extreme, event going on in Albuquerque or other little towns that are doing, fireworks or whatever, we're actually the lead event in the northeastern part of the state and possibly the northern part of the state. This is a traditional thing, 120, 30 some years in the works. That's the perfect time. For us to change that date would be ridiculous.
Oh, yeah,
But
no.
if we wanted to have a subsequent event, like for Labor Day again in the future, that would be a good second date. But I think we are the lead event when it comes to the Fourth of July, because
We are.
that's the big event.
We are.
And I consider it not only a Fourth of July event, it's a family reunion for the town.
Just to put into perspective, the Fourth of July compared to the Fall Fiesta, Placer AI, last time when we asked for analytics on our Fourth of July Fiesta, 15,000 to 16,000 people per day were in the park. This was 15,000 people total for the Fall Fiesta, but we had it 15,000 to 16,000 per day during the fiestas. So we are the lead. That's the best fiesta in the state is the City of Las Vegas's Fourth of July Fiesta. Nobody can ever say different to me. We have the best looking park. We have great bands that come over here and play some good music. We have some great people that want to go out there and have a good time. And what I like most of it is that they're here. They're here to spend money. You know what I mean? They're here to spend some money in Las Vegas, and that's what we want. So I think it's one of the best events there is out there. Is that I want to kind of run over a couple more things before I get too late in the day. I do want to set up a time where I can have the Lodgers Tax Board and the City Council together. I want to get the city attorney to go ahead and come in and give us a presentation in regards to the proper uses of lodgers tax. There's a lot of confusing ways to spend it, and there's confusion both ways. So even the attorneys have a little bit of a hard time with it. And yes, there's a lot of good knowledge in that one, the book that you were talking about. There is a lot of good stuff in there, and I've been reading through it. But just to put everybody at ease on this last,
I don't know if it already happened.
there's gonna be another one here soon, so.
It said 2024.
It might be good that I'm gonna try to attend for sure. Scott will go there with me as well. But, I just wanna put everybody at ease, cause there was a little bit of questioning about the bans for that third party, when the Dia de los Muertos came in. So I did go into, to get some legal advice for this, so you know what I mean? Cause what I was given was the letter, and I want them to explain it to you guys more than I want to explain it to you guys, but I want to let you guys know what I found, what was told to me, is that they said the city of Las Vegas is what their presumption was that we could not buy bands for ourselves, the lodgers tax couldn't, but we could buy a band, say for Mora, to go ahead and market Las Vegas. So which they themselves kind of got a little bit confused with. It makes no sense. I did talk to myself, okay, well then if we could do that, can a third party, say Dia de los Muertos, come and propose to the board that they pay for their band for an event that's gonna market the city of Las Vegas? The answer that came back to me, and I'll try to get it in a legal letter because it just came to me in email, was yes, it can be paid for through lodgers tax.
Well, wait,
Now, talking with,
Lucas.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
interrupt you real quickly. The way it was always handled was the city funded the Chamber of Commerce to run the fiestas. The Chamber of Commerce had a fiesta council under them, and they would run the fiestas, and the city would pay them to do that. That's
So just a little bit more that I did some digging into, because I did look at Gallup's website, and they have their city attorney kind of explain to their board that, it's a really gray area. It's probably the grayest area when it comes to entertainment. He pretty much said, do you guys want to be the guinea pigs? Do you guys want to find out? But he did give them a list of what they can and can't use for lodgers tax. For instance, T-shirts, they can't do it. Posters, they can't do it. But on the other side, that's the city of Gallup. But the other side, and this is where it gets to me, is that I got a lot of grief at that council meeting for the motor from Chamber. But on Gallup's side, they could give away buckles and saddles. So what's the difference between a saddle and a motor? And that's my thought, you know what I mean? A saddle can be, yeah, well,
Right?
yeah, I understand the price wise, but
Yeah.
a saddle is just the same thing as
So-
a
so
motor.
was
I mean,
one
they're giving it away, There's
Right,
somebody's
but
gonna
does it
get
say
that.
like City of Gallup on it?
Yeah.
The buckle
Well, I don't know, I mean, the motor could say City of Las Vegas on the
on the motor?
on the motor, you know what I mean? But are they gonna leave it on? A lot of these people that are in the rodeo, you're right, they wanna leave it on there because it's pride. I mean, I'm not sure somebody's gonna leave the City of Las Vegas, on their motor, but, I mean, are they gonna leave it on the saddle as well? So that's things that we have to look at. That's how come I'm saying it's really confusing. You know, I talked to, again, we talked to Santa Fe, we talked to a gentleman by the name of, and
Randy Randall.
Randy Randall. It's not a rock star. He's an actual, he has a rock star name, but Randy Randall is his name. And I explained to him our situation. I did explain to him our situation in regards to the bands. And, you know, he sat back and he said, you know, I disagree with the city attorney's opinion. And I agree with the two gentlemen that said you can pay for the bands. He, for instance, told us that they just had a Native American event or fair, right?
Indian market,
Indian market, and he paid for 10 Indian dancers to be in there.
any dance groups, you know, that
So
do
the
chicken
only,
dance,
the only thing he did say,
hoop dance.
and this is something I'm probably gonna come back to the board on, is he thinks that the amounts that we're paying might raise an eyebrow. So that's just something he told us, and then he forewarned us about,
Ancient-
I don't know if I wanna say the city's name on record, but that there is a city that he did tell us not to follow their lead.
We don't wanna turn this into a band,
Yeah.
slush fund, right?
Yes, and that's what concerned me, because I wanna make sure I'm appeasing the board. I wanna make sure I'm appeasing the public and of course my council. But, you know, I'm trying to get answers from every avenue that I possibly can, so I could come and bring you guys what I've learned, so that we could put our heads together and come up with the best shot of always staying in compliance that we possibly can.
And so I think there's like two people that you could hit with directly to the state, and I think there's some of the ones leading the education sessions for the state, because I think the state knows that this is tough across the board. So it's using some of those examples, but then even using the guidance from the state. And I mean, I'll shoot you over the things, but I saw 2022's as educational session. It has, you know, the base things, their slides were really good, just to kind of keep us in line.
Yep,
Well,
and again,
everybody has to have good intentions, but in the last meeting, that's what I was trying to say, is that we're hitting a slippery slope here on some of the things we're doing, we just better be clarified. And if we clarify, like, this is our policy, as long as we stay consistent with it, okay, we've agreed, we're paying for bands. And as long as we stay consistent, then it doesn't turn out to anyone, and it bothers me so, and I said it all the time, I don't wanna dictate up here who gets money, who doesn't get money, as long as we're consistent and established policy of the city, and we're above board, right? We're not talking about, hey, because there's so much of it, you're right, you don't find in the ordinance, there's gray areas, but you set policy, you get the same guidance.
and the first 50%, guys, is simple. We know where to spend it. We know that, because it tells us right there that we're a Class B county and 50% of our lodger's tax has to be spent on marketing, advertising, and promoting. So we know that. The other 50% is the confusing part. And that's where I fall into I lean on the experience of Elmer and Matt and Crew Tech in regards to where we can take these funds to, because it does say that if we don't use it within was it 2 years? Within the 2 years' time, it can be taken from us.
It is the 2 year period.
And right now, if you guys look at it, you guys heard it at the last meeting when the finance director was here. We're gonna have $700,000 again this year. We already have $800,000 saved. They've probably been nice to us because COVID was here, the floods were here, the fires were here. So-
That's
but-
exactly, that's
so-
what
so-
we're
but
kinda
we
hearing.
We really need to sit
Okay.
down and buckle down and see where we're gonna spend this money, because I don't wanna lose it. I don't wanna lose it.
At this time, we're spending last year's money. And we're holding this year's money,
That's
at
the-
this point.
Yes, that's the way it's working right now. That's
Okay.
the way what we're trying to do. I know,
That way you meet the 2-year criteria, gives a chance to catch up. think Crewtech has a good idea in terms of a policy. We'll develop over the next few months.
Okay.
We'll start, and based on, I'm glad you're doing this training or retreat with some expertise in it. And we'll develop policy off of that, so that there'll always be a policy for whoever sits here and whoever sits there. You have a policy to work from, and we're not having to go through this every time there's a small change.
Okay.
So I think that you've taken the right first step in terms of getting some experts here to help us with that.
Yes, sir.
On the issue of the bands, and then also you mentioned during Indian market, they paid for traditional dancers.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all of our bands that we've had here through all of our fiestas are historically and culturally from this it represents northern New Mexico. So you're covering your cultural criteria, your history also. Same as the Indian market. You have that fiesta during Indian market, you're bringing in traditional dancers, which also falls under that category. My pet peeve is, you bring them in, where is it saying, when the announcement comes in, that these were brought to you by the city's lodger's tax?
During the MC, is what you're saying?
MC.
Okay.
Well, when I went to the fall festival that we had, I was there for the whole day on Monday. I only heard it once. There was no banner, and when I asked Chuck Grego about the banner, I said, Chuck, I thought we were going to have a banner that says funded by the City of Las Vegas Lodgers Tax. He told me, well, you're supposed to order that and pay for it. I said, me? I said, I'm a board member. I don't do that. I said, I'm asking for a request. So the next meeting we have, I'm going to request that. Okay? So it's officially requesting that you do.
We will get you one.
You can put it in the backdrop. It's just saying where the funding's coming from. And I think for your entertainment, the cities can always fall back on cultural heritage, cultural education. That's how they're paying, and they're requesting these performers to come. Because it is. It is.
And I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Anything that the lodgers tax funds should have lodgers tax plastered all over it. And that's the way it should be, because you guys are the ones allowing us to be able to use these funds. And the city agrees with you 100%. The mayor wants it like that. Every city councilor wants it like that. The city managers, they know that the only thing we don't put on there is board at the end. We just put
That's
lodgers tax.
fine with me.
Lodgers tax,
That's
that's
just
it.
lodger's tax.
Other than that, we want to make sure we keep it
Because the public
non-political.
sees that and they're going, well, where's this tax coming from? Well, when your family comes here and eats and sleeps here, that's where that's coming from. And then they're like, oh,
Maybe you can
okay.
be on both ends. So you're looking out for, are they doing this? But even in their contract, let's put in, hey, look, as part of this deal for being reimbursed, you need to make sure so when they're signing that contract, whatever entity or the things or whatever we're doing for, they're signing that contract, it's a line item there that you must mention that this was, so they have, the person or anyone receiving the money, as I said, so have a responsibility as well. They can't just say, hey, the city didn't do it. They have to say, okay, yeah, we have to make sure we put this out there. Whether their own band member says it, I'm thinking of still bands, but anything else that it says city of.
I think you're 100% right,
lodgers tax.
and I think maybe we should put, I don't know if it is a part of our application, but we will make it a part of the application that they do commit to put funded by City of Las Vegas lodgers tax on any of their promotional items that they have.
If I, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
Go ahead.
Before I forget, I guess as my age goes, I want to say it while it's nice and hot in my brain, then after it's gone. I have two comments. The first one being, we have all this money, 1.5 million with 700 plus 800,000, comes out to 1.5. I really think that if we're gonna continue to move forward like we have with the fiestas, which I'm imagining we're going to, we've talked about the fact that we rent a stage we rent sound, we do all these things, okay? I think we need something more permanent, so that, and now that we have the money, I think it behooves this board to recommend to the city council that we move forward with some of the infrastructure and do some work that needs to be done to have our own place that we're not renting. We could have bought these stages and sound equipment, and maybe it sounds something we don't do, but we need to start thinking long-term instead of short-term. I hope we don't rent another stage again, ever. I think we need to do our own stuff, and I think we have enough time to start now and put something more permanent so that we won't have to do that again. I think we need to do that.
It does say in the ordinances about tourist-related infrastructure, so, I mean, that's something we could visit with you guys and see what you guys want to do and get some prices and see what you guys are feeling like.
So that's my first comment, okay? So I hope maybe at the next meeting, Mr. Chair, maybe we can start to discuss that, get some more permanence when it comes to some of the infrastructure. Number two, don't forget, we've been doing it for 135 years. We don't really have a lot to show other than we have a lot of green grass and a nice bunch of trees, okay? We need some facilities. We need restrooms. We need maybe a green room. We know places where people can prep to be on the stage next. Some place where the MC can go hide till the next, act starts up. Number two, I think your recommendation, Lucas, of working with the Fiesta Council like we did in the past, that eliminates the gray area, okay? The city funds that group and they take care of all that stuff. It worked before. I've been fighting this issue for the last few years because it's not worked that way. And you can just talk to a number of musicians and you'll find out that it's not worked well. And the last thing is, I think it's important that the city have events, but I don't think the city needs to fund all these events and do them themselves. I think we need to recruit entities, nonprofits, groups of people to take on some of these things. That's not the job of the city to have events. I think we used to have entities before that would take on all these events. Maybe we won't get them all done, but we should start pushing it. So I think it's something we need to ask the community. If you want to take over an event, it's going to take X, we need to be able to support them, that we're going to be able to do X, Y, and Z for them so they can help. And that takes care of our gray area.
And another thing that Nachi mentioned that, so another thing Santa Fe is doing that I think was pretty interesting is that they cap them. So of course, they have 17 million, so we'll use their numbers that they told me. Any event that's requesting money, they could cap them at 40,000. But the next year when they come back, they can only get 30,000. And the following year, they can only get 20,000, all the way to 10,000. And from there on out, they should be self-sufficient and be able to handle their own event on their own. And it's something that we should maybe look at going on, because we still have these events that are coming back year after year asking for the same amounts, and
or greater, and then you're trying to
Yes.
justify that you're
So it's
under
just,
the thing, but you would gladly go the other way and said keep rewarding it because then you had a good event.
Yeah.
Or go with that, and that's
Well, we're
the
starting
benchmark.
from ground zero right now, the way I look at it. Because we're funding all our own events.
we are. I mean, we fund
can't
all
do that.
our events, and then if we.
But that's a good
and-
policy that to enact it has to start somewhere, but.
But see, they also have more nonprofits than we do.
Well, they
They'll
do.
be able to do, we
They-
don't have that kind of stuff. We've lost some.
But see, if we go out for RFPs when it's time to do these application deadlines, and we start getting these people maybe coming out of the woodworks or from Santa Fe or whatever, they want to come and throw some events down here and start seeing that it's beneficial to them, we might get some of these events off our backs.
And some of the groups, if you see, they just got exhausted with all the things going on between COVID and fire and so on. Even in the turnover, these individual groups, even the strong ones that we had, they had a breaking point too, where working with the cycle, working with different, it was tough in that environment to have them volunteer. But now, as we're getting back to hopefully there's not anything else, getting into normalcy, these groups start getting stronger and stronger. There's new blood within those groups that they can volunteer and come in. We're seeing some of them now come forward. Hopefully, we have other entities that are willing to do it. But again, if we're consistent with our policy, they're not going to be disenfranchised with us on what to do. And they're like, look, we've got some help. The city's willing us to do this. What do we need to do? And if they're directed in the right way and we're fair, I think we can get some volunteers.
Getting, just all this discussion kind of reminds me of stuff, so kind of the light bulb goes back on. one of the processes that I know that finance had, when we had a situation where you could only get this, and this has to do with procurement. We had a situation where we could only get this one vendor, or there was only this one vendor that could do that. I think I did that with the CCHP or some other groups in the community when, so I would have to write, as a department director, write a letter of determination. I don't know if you have to do that sometimes, Lucas, saying the reason that I'm going with this vendor and only this vendor is because reasons X, Y, and Z. And when you mentioned cultural stuff, that reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Is because of these right reasons. That letter then went into the purchase record, so that when the auditor saw it, he would see, okay, the reason that they went with this vendor, they didn't follow the procurement code to a T. The reason they went with this vendor was because of this, and here's a letter of determination.
Sole source.
For a sole source.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that would help in this situation and we'll bring that up when we have a discussion with all the great minds that you're gonna bring before us. The other thing, and this was, when we developed the position of event planner, the whole idea behind it, because at that time, if you went for a public events permit, we had people running around all over the place running that permit, trying to get signatures. So we developed the event planner, to help facilitate not only the running of the permit, but to help facilitate the event, not to run the event, but to help the organization run the event. Okay, where do I get porta potties? Where do I get this? How do I plug into electricity? Who do I talk to about juice? All these things, and that was the function of the event planner, was not to run the event. Somehow things have flipped over, and now Chuck is running all these events. And it's a lot of responsibility on him. So,
You're right. There was direction given upon Chuck by the former city manager that he had to attend and be at every single event from start to finish. That's changed now. There's different leadership in here now, and he recognizes that, and we're starting to put a little bit different turns for him. So trying to get off his shoulders a little bit.
yeah, because you could see the event organizer over there at the park trying to get something and not knowing who to call. They called the event planner, hey, could you get the electrician down here? Could you get me somebody for water? And that was the function, or that's what we visualized the event planner to do, was to help facilitate the event, to make it easier. That way, the guys running the event, the organizers, don't get disillusioned from doing it because they have support.
Right. There's guidance there. Usually there was a list, a checkoff list. Like if you held the event at the park, what were the requirements for the park? Streets, closures, electricity, everything you just mentioned, everything, but it was on a list. So you filled out the application. These were your needs, you gave it to your event coordinator from the city. They were the ones that said, oh, okay, we can do this, and this. Yeah. I just came from a meeting earlier today that the Community Foundation held, and there were over 21 nonprofits there. 21. And each one of these nonprofits do fundraisers and do special events. And I'm thinking, well, they could be doing some of these events that the city is doing.
Yeah.
And then they could be making money too, to go to their nonprofit, right? And also, all of the money what little money they do have, that goes into advertisement for, the marketing end of it. I thought, well, why didn't they just come to us for that? If they're gonna hold an event as a fundraiser that is gonna be something for the public, we could help them with that. I would like for you, your department, is to sit down and have that conversation with, Elmo Baca just became the new director there. But he's got all the information there, and it was a really interesting meeting, and I was there for the first 5 hours of it, and it was worth listening to and seeing all of the organizations within the city limits, and Mora was there too. So Mora was in the house too. It was really interesting. So get that information with Mr. Elmo Baca. I mean, I think it would really help those organizations, and how we can help you know, they can do something for us and we can do something for them. All right?
Right, so what do you think on that, as far as this meeting, goes, that, between, the board and council and?
So, yeah, I wanna, once I get a little bit of I do got the go-ahead already from the city manager to go get some things going. So I wanna see when I can get it done as fast as I can. There's a couple of, big meetings that they got coming up now on the tomorrow night and on the 16th, so I might push it to like November, but I wanna make sure I get something going on. I'll give you guys plenty of notice, I'll let you guys know what's going on, and at that point in time, we'll have the tables set up down here and the whole thing for them up there, you guys down here, and then I'll go ahead and have the city attorney here. I just gotta get with the city manager and see when I could get Gino Zamora out here to go ahead and do the presentation for us.
I think some of the gray area, and I don't know, we've been going with the thing, so the as far as the state ordinance goes, is from like 1960 something, there's, you know, a list of 7 items there that it's spelling out exactly what you can spend it on, and the last item actually says, any combination of the foregoing purposes or transactions stated in the section, but for no other municipal or county purpose. So it's asking, you can spend everything within this scope of, and this is the ordinance for eligible use of the tax proceeds for lodger's tax. The gray area is not, hey, I know it's saying at minimum you could spend this much, you need to spend this much on promotion, which is fine. But the rest, it's saying an audit, you're not gonna have a big audit. Fire, yeah, you could spend all that, but it spells those things out. The gray area is within that promotion. The biggest problem we're having is what is is this considered a promotion or not? The engine, the paying bands, does that work in line with, okay, we're spending this on promotion within the guidelines? That's the gray area. Which, how are you defining it? For it, that's where we're getting into trouble of what promotion means.
It leaves it open to perception. I mean, and we don't know. I mean, and I think an attorney's only gonna say yes to what he can defend what he could defend. And I just see, I see the perception being the problem for us. We don't know, and I don't wanna perceive anything anyway. So I wanna make sure we're getting accurate answers and making sure we're using these funds the correct way.
Okay. Any other business?
So back to the meeting with the council, we will have to check with the attorney to make sure that we're not in violation of Open Meetings Act.
Meeting act to get that together.
You're gonna
okay.
have to go through the process.
Yeah, we'll go through the process.
Or even figuring out if there is a training, and then go through the process, if there's a training by the state. If everyone can attend and it's not a violation of the Open Meetings Act or the official meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just follow all the channels and get everything there. Like I said, I could have them do it separately, but what for? I think it's best if we're all here, we all hear the same thing, and let's put our heads together
Discussion.
and get it done. Let's get it done. It might be a little long discussion, but it's well worth it because there's too many gray areas and I don't wanna fall into a hole somewhere and I don't want.
Well, and again, we could set policies so we're all above it. So we're not doing things here and then setting up the board and then council has a differing of it. So if we're kind of on the same page of, we've erased these gray areas for us anyways and set policy, then we could stay consistent. And if we wanna print it and put it down, then we can do it. And so anybody in the public that's wondering in the future, or any board or any, I think that they could refer back to set policy and not have to go through these circles again.
Yep.
All right.
Lucas,
Yes, ma'am.
on that meeting, we did have, one of the final things that they were voting on
This section.
with the Community Foundation was to set 2 dates, one for the fall, one for the spring, on grant applications to help people fill them out and understand the language, right? When they were talking about that, I thought, well, that would be a great opportunity for the city to also come in and show the people, how do you fill out an application for lodger's tax funding?
That'd be a great idea.
So when you have that discussion with Alma Baca, that would be a great opportunity. So when we do get applications in, people know what they're putting in there.
Sounds great.
So, I mean, there were, like I said, over 21 nonprofits there. And Mora County and San Miguel County were there. So it would really help a lot, because it was,
That's great
People were-
information.
confused.
That's great information. Thank you very much. Got my card.
All right.
Any more questions?
Any other new business, Elmer?
No, just want to thank the board for your confidence, support. Look forward to one year of it.
We'll send you a bill.
And I look forward to meeting with staff to facilitate the processes that you have in place and kind of make these meetings go smoothly so that we have all the information. Work on our applications and things like that. So, I'm available for that. And I know Lucas calls me once in a while, ask me a question, how did you do this?
I know Scott and Lucas silently conveyed that they're gonna be working with the future chair the best they can.
And with streamline your applications, also improve them and work on the kind of the tasks that the board wants. So I look forward to this next year. Thank you.
So move
All
to
right,
adjourn.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Matt, second.
Second.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank God there were only 2 items on the agenda.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, guys. I gotta run. I gotta go pick up my cards at the
There's
mechanic
so-
shop before they shut it on me. but
Matt, there's
Call me
too
over.
many of us that have too much to say.
Yeah.
That's just the type of board we are.
I'll see you in a bit.
Okay, so
I need a sign.
You right? No, no, no.
I'm gonna go pick up my cards.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, I missed the sign.
It was a good meeting. Sorry I was late.